Welcome to episode 14 of The World of Screens, a podcast. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about Alien Earth episode 3 and Peacemaker. Season 2, episode 1, the brand new season of Peacemaker has entered the DCU. I'm Nick Labarro, the founder and film editor at worldofscreens.com, and it's a solo episode of the podcast today. Pete is off to Toronto. He's on a plane to TIFF. Josh, our TV editor, is unfortunately down with the flu. It has been going around. I was crook last week. But I'm doing a solo episode because I really want to talk about these two episodes of TV. I watched both of them last week on Friday as a fun little double feature, I guess you could say, of television episodes. But we'll start with Alien Earth. Alien Earth episode 3 has come out. And the first thing I really want to point out is, and it's something Josh and I talked about, it is such a cinematic television show. This show, budget-wise, obviously has the money to pull off some of these practical sets. We see a lot of the xenomorph in this episode, especially towards the beginning. But I think the way this show is being shot and constructed by Noah Hawley and his team of directors is truly incredible. And it's capturing the alien world. It's capturing, which is Earth, but the cinematic world of Alien on TV in such a rich way. I'm truly in love with how good this show looks. I was really intrigued by the opening titles as well, because it gives us like a visual recap of the last episode without sort of spilling too much about the plot. So it's not a narration, there's no voiceover, we're not getting like lines of dialogue. It's just this visual recap as Alien Earth slowly comes up onto the screen. But I'm really intrigued where this story is going. If you listen to the last Alien Earth episode that I did with Josh about the first 2 episodes of the show, I don't know who to trust. And it's becoming more and more apparent with this episode of who we can trust, pretty much outside of Wendy, who we can trust and who we can't trust. And I think Mr. Morrow, his scene is incredibly intense when he sees 2 of the Lost Boys, or 2 of the hybrids, and is like spouting all this stuff about like when is a machine not a machine, and trying to understand what a hybrid is. He doesn't understand that there's this human consciousness in this robot body. And I'm really into this sort of, we brought up Alex Garland on that episode, and I'm very into this sort of exploration into not necessarily like, like he says, when is a machine not a machine, but it's like, what is human? What does it mean to be human? Is consciousness human? Is a physical body human? I'm liking this sort of existential exploration of this, and then through the Mr. Morrow character, it's very, very entertaining. And then he like downloads all the ship's data, all of Mother's data into his head, and kills himself with the ship. And it's just super, super intense. So I thought Mr. Morrow was probably, he might still be, we don't know. I assumed he was probably going to be a bit more of like a villainous character all the way through with perhaps a redemptive arc. But for now, it seems like Mr. Morrow is no more. Timothy Oliphant, who we sang the praises of, and rightfully so, is still the most intriguing character to me. He's becoming more and more interesting as the show goes on, because he kind of has been given this authority by Boy Cavalier. Boy Cavalier is very much like, I want everything on this ship. He's like Yutani Corp is fucked up. Their ship's crashed. I have it now. I'm taking it back. But he gives Timothy Oliphant's character this interesting authority, this interesting power to sort of run the investigation. So obviously, Wendy pitched to Boy Cavalier that this is their like expendable crew to go and like examine the ship. But when it's now like pushing is coming to shoving, and Boy Cavalier wants more exploration of the beings that are on this, with the xenomorph included, the beings on this ship, I'm intrigued by the amount of authority that Timothy Oliphant's character has been giving, and sort of whether that is going to lead him to maybe go down this path of wanting more authority and wanting more control. I don't know. That excites me. It's his reactions to instruction, or even the way he sort of slyly and slightly manipulates Boy Cavalier into giving him complete control over the investigation and the examination of these substances, these parasites, I keep forgetting what they call them. It makes it very, very interesting. And we actually see Yutani. We see a Yutani character talking to Boy Cavalier, and she's just like, I want my ship back. And Cavalier's like, yeah, okay. Very interesting as well. Oh, well, and while we're talking about like practical effects and how great this show looks, the xenomorph egg dissection is incredible. Like it looks so good. I'm loving the practical effects in this show. Cavalier's also I'm enjoying the examination, I guess, of that what is human, what is machine. I'm really enjoying this who's trying to pine to be Cavalier's favorite out of the characters, and this sort of like human emotional manipulation that's coming through these kids. These are still kids in these hybrid bodies, but it's this interesting like dichotomy. I've said like a lot this episode, and I apologize, but it's this interesting dichotomy of like a child's consciousness in an adult body, and like how quick does the child grow up, and the way that they're using this manipulation of Cavalier to sort of like for acceptance and to get more responsibility, I guess, more power is what it will ultimately turn into, has been very interesting. I'm enjoying the character dynamics a lot. I really like this. I think maybe with the first episode probably is my favorite episode yet. I really got into the exploration of character dynamics and power dynamics, and that what is a machine, when is a machine not a machine, and when is a human not a human. I'm enjoying that, but it also that didn't bog down the episode at all, because there is still a really terrifying action sequence at the beginning of the episode involving Wendy and her brother. I just, yeah, I'm really digging Alien Earth. I'm really, really digging it. But let's talk about Peacemaker season 2.
They're gonna be doing backflips to get you to join.
Welcome, Peacemaker, or do you prefer Chris?
Either's fine.
Can you tell us a little about your skills?
I'm considered the finest marksman in the world.
The mic is off.
Yeah.
I am also proficient in hand-to-hand combat.
How many more of these do we have today?
Is that popcorn still here?
You love popcorn.
My bud's getting really big lately, so.
I have a variety of helmets.
This guy sucks.
Excuse me? Am I supposed to be able to hear you guys?
Excuse me?
You were talking about your butt and stuff? And also you said that I suck?
So James Gunn has explicitly stated that this is part of the new DCU, which started with Creature Commandos, which I've only seen the first episode of, and I actually watched it before watching Peacemaker. I will continue Creature Commandos. I liked it, but not in a way where I was like, I need to actively binge watch these right now. Even though Rick Flag Sr. is a character played by Frank Grillo, is a character in that show, I feel like he had an introduction enough in Superman that I'm comfortable knowing who his character is. And in this episode of Peacemaker Season 2, the first episode, they immediately establish his relationship as Rick Flag's dad, Joel Kinnaman, who died in the Suicide Squad. What I will say is the previously in the DCU really just sets up what is and isn't canon. The main thing is that at the end of Peacemaker Season 1, we see the Justice League, and Aquaman and the Flash are literal characters in Peacemaker Season 1, and then we see like the silhouettes of Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman. Or I don't know if Batman was there, I can't remember. Anyway, previously in the DCU, it's the Justice Gang now. So we see Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, and Hawkgirl, played by Isabella Merced. And they are the characters who are there. So it's been retconned, I guess. Like, we know that most of what happens in Peacemaker Season 1 is canon to Season 2, but a few things have been changed here and there. But it sets it up quite well. It's also hilarious, and I know that there's been discourse about this online, so I'm fully aware of it, that a movie that is so full of hope and kindness and family-friendly as Superman is connected to Peacemaker, which has a literal orgy scene full of dicks, boobs, butts, and drugs in the middle of this episode. As an adult human being, hilarious. I loved it. Kind of understand where maybe some of the parents are coming from when they hear, oh no, Peacemaker is connected to the DCU, and then they see dick, butts, boobs, and drugs. But that's a conversation I have with the kids. That's not for me to talk about. But we know immediately in episode 1 what is canon, what isn't canon, and right away I was like, oh, it's going to tell it's going to be quite an emotional season. Because the opening scene is, I know James Gunn has an actual like literal term for this, but I'm just calling it the interdimensional door. Peacemaker's closet opens it up, and there's this whole world that's inside of it. and he sees his dad, who he killed in the last season, which is wild. And he goes in and sees photos of his brother, who died as a child in this Chris's universe. And it sort of expands this whole interdimensional world. So I feel like immediately I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be like a far more deeper series about sort of Chris, about Peacemaker coming to a lot of terms with his childhood trauma, with the guilt of killing his father, the loneliness that he kind of feels, and how that affects his relationships in the universe Peacemaker's already established in. So I got that immediately, and I do think this episode firstly sets up probably the whole season's premise quite well, but really hooked me in. Like I was very attentive during this episode in an emotional sense, and I was very engaged by it. Also, get a new opening credits dance number, which feels more emotional. There's far more of like a ballad feel to the song, and I just kind of felt a little bit more somber as opposed to season one's dance number, which was far more electric and fun and a bit silly. This one definitely came across as we're probably going to get a lot of feels as well. But it's something James Gunn does quite well. I mean, look at the Guardians films. As wild as and silly and wacky and absurd as they are, they have a very strong emotional core to them. So I definitely think Peacemaker is going to be like that as well. Returning from Superman, Maxwell Lord, Justice Gang. They're there. Peacemaker is auditioning for the Justice Gang in a very funny scene. And Amelia Harcourt's been blacklisted by Amanda Waller. She's trying to join a secret agency and pretty much finds out that she's been like blacklisted by Waller. And I think everyone's going to go on these very emotional journeys throughout the season. It's pretty much assumed that Amelia Harcourt and Peacemaker have hooked up. They talk about an event that happened that they don't really want to talk about. But also in this alternate universe, in this alternate interdimensional universe, Harcourt and Chris were together as well. So that's quite interesting. Obviously, Vigilante comes back. He has probably not as much going on this episode. It is setting up a lot of Peacemaker, Chris's storyline, and a fair bit of Harcourt's storyline. Vigilante comes in with a really funny, like, owl fact based scene, which I thought was quite funny. And then the orgy scene. The orgy scene is wild. It's a great shot of John Cena of Peacemaker ripping a bong, doing a line of coke, and then bang, all of a sudden there's literally naked people fucking all in his house. I thought it was hilarious. It was interesting that it was mentioned by Rick Flag that the interdimensional door, that technology is the same technology Lex Luthor used in Superman for his pocket universe prison. So Gunn doing a lot of work to try and really keep that in the universe. However, I will say it didn't feel blatant. It didn't feel shoehorned. It didn't feel like it was going, oh, we need to, make this connect to Superman in such a fucking hardcore way. I liked the bits and pieces of connection. Peacemaker still definitely feels like something else that was happening while Superman was happening. And while there are connections, especially with the Justice Gang and then that interdimensional door portal and the pocket universes and all that sort of stuff, I do feel like they are two separate entities of the same universe, and I quite enjoy that because Peacemaker is a very different story. It's probably going to hit a lot of the same emotional notes that Gunn's stories have done before. You even look back to the Suicide Squad, there's a lot of emotion in that, but I appreciate sort of the separateness of it as well. Really cool fight scene at the end of this between two Peacemakers, and a super emotional scene where our universe's Chris meets his brother who's grown up now, because he didn't die in this other universe, and the connection they have, and just John Cena's acting is phenomenal in this scene. Just the pure shock on his face, but the longingness and the trauma and the sadness that sort of bleeds through his performance, especially in his eyes, is wonderful. It is truly fantastic. But then it leads to an incredible fight scene where that universe's Chris runs into this Chris, and there's fucking flying ninja stars, and Eagly is a part of it as well. It's fucking awesome. So really great first episode. I'm hooked. I really liked Peacemaker season 1. I didn't love it, but I really liked it. this episode's got me in. And I think these two shows concurrently have made me very excited for Fridays in my household because that is when I'm watching them. So really excited to see where Peacemaker season 2 goes from here on that level there. But that's just a quick recap. I just wanted to talk about Alien episode 3 and Peacemaker season 2 episode 1 for you all here. Hopefully Josh is getting better. He should be back for the next Alien and Peacemaker breakdown. And while Pete's and Tiff, we will have people coming in to talk about the movies, of which on the next episode of the World of Screens podcast, we are going to be talking about this week's releases, which are Honey Don't, Caught Stealing, and The Toxic Avenger. So be on the lookout for that. If you head to worldofscreens.com, subscribe to our emailing list, you won't miss an article of our website, you won't miss a podcast episode, you won't miss a giveaway. And if you head to @WorldOfScreens on Instagram, you'll see all the fun stuff that we're doing over there. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you on the next episode of the World of Screens podcast.